Alright, so I just played a show very recently with Red Beans Recording, Jeremy Blake, and we played at this spot called the Icebox Arcade. And I played with Digitakt, Digitone, DB01, and Octatrack using my performance template 2.0, which I'm still working on. It's currently on beta 5 release. I'll probably release beta 6 sometime this week and or the 1.0 version, but I'm still trying to figure out what I want that to be exactly. Had an interesting week. So playing the show was really great, and I felt really great about the show. Not all of it, but for the most part, I did. And I used my ultimate ears. So you can see that. Well, it's probably a little out of... Anyway, these are custom in-ear monitors that I had made for myself. I have, hearing stuff that I have to deal with, so I don't want it to be super loud when I play. And you also want to hear your mix. And, the sound on the other side of the speakers at the place that I played sounds great. Before the speakers, not so great. Doesn't sound fantastic. So glad that I had really good in-ear monitors so I could hear my mix clearly. And it actually allowed me to get really into the music. I found myself, jumping around, getting excited. So that was great. My opening song was a song that was Digitakt, bass line, a little bit of Digitone. And I think maybe I had done a Control-All thing because to me it seemed like I was just slightly out of tune. Maybe the FM was just turned up a little bit on my bass line because it felt like the bass line was going out of tune a little bit. I honestly don't know. But otherwise, everything else was splendid. I had a lot of fun doing the show. And kind of what I was thinking about during the show, because I had written some techno, kind of darker techno stuff for the show. And a lot of the music I do is very housey and light and kind of, I don't know, highly melodic. And this had barely any melody in it, right? Just a bass line and some huge stabs that were not chord stabs, just single notes that were just kind of well, they sound kind of like this. So that's the Digitone. I don't know where I'm pointing. And it sounded great. Had a great time with that. Had a really great time with this song. And that piano sound is actually the stock piano sound that you get in the OP-1. And it sounds really great. I'll give you a little teaser of what that show sounded like. I'll play this song for a second. Energy growing with the crowd. And that's what's so fun about performing that kind of music. But I felt really good about the music, and my DB01 being funky for a second upset me. So much so that I started... It wasn't even the DB01's fault, I think, honestly. I think it was just an encoder was in the wrong spot. So I can't really blame it because this thing has never failed me. It's a great synthesizer, and I have no intention of not using it. But that feeling that I had from that, hearing that it was slightly out of tune, really made me want to look at another bass synthesizer. So I started looking at all of these different 303s, basically remakes, right? Let me see if I can get this stream over to my folks in my in my Discord because it didn't alert them for whatever reason. So I'm going to do that real quick because they're fantastically chatty. Shift at everyone. There we go. Yeah. Okay, so back over to it. So I started looking at a bunch of 303 remakes, and they sound great. Like I really do like the sound of the 303, even when it's not doing the squelchy high resonance sound. It's just a good sounding bass sound, and you can find that in a ton of Roland synths. Like you can find a very similar bass sound if you're not trying to do the squelchy part in like the Juno or the JU06A. You can find it in their new little T8 thing that they made that's like the drum and bass module. That's pretty affordable. I think like $200 or $250 or something. Maybe it's $3. I'm not sure. Anyway, they sound really good. They're surprisingly cool. I know Jeremy has done a cool video on them. Should totally check them out. A lot of fun, rechargeable battery, pretty dope. So I started looking for those, and I'm trying to figure out what do I want to do. Do I want to keep using the DB01? Do I want to change it up? I like this idea of using a monosynth and a bunch of guitar pedals, guitar player. So I have a good number of guitar pedals, not a ton. I've never been a huge pedal guy, but enough that I can pair different concepts. Right now I have the Take 5 running through Shallow Water going into TC Electronic Hall of Fame. And that combo is really tasty. That's going to my mixer, the Big 6, which I have a send going out over to this table. So I can just send anything in the studio. And right now, namely, that's the Big 6. I mean, that's the Take 5, and that's set up. And I just realized I had my modular over here for such a long time. And the modular ends up just kind of just being this thing that I look at and not enough that I play, because I really am drawn to playing on keyboards more so, and the modular stuff is usually like this idea that I dive into. And so I'm finding that I'm just making sounds on it constantly because it's just right here, and I'm always right here with all my Elektron gear. But anyhow, I wanted to talk about doing some different synthesizer stuff, right? And so I started digging into my OP-1, which, hang on a second, which is not going out yet right now. There we go. And I gotta say, the OP-1 field is an incredible upgrade to the original OP-1. So I don't want to have like a big talk about the cost of that. I think that most people are kind of over that like initial gut punch of the cost of the OP-1 field, and it's not really like maybe a conversation to have anymore. But since we're past that, let's just talk about it. It's what it is. And what it is another utility. This is a utility synth, in my opinion, much as I think the Octatrack is a utility piece of gear. So the Octatrack can be anything I want it to be, right? And for me, the Octatrack is typically a performance mixer because there's nothing else out there that can do what it does besides your computer. And that's kind of like where the OP-1 kind of falls into. And now that they've upgraded the sound quality of the OP-1, I think that it's a lot more usable. And I wanted to show off a couple. So I made like 2 patches trying to make like stuff that I would use in my music with the Dimension synth. And let's see if or I can just load one up, right? Shift 1, let's go down to not sampler, but where is it? Where do I have to go here? Reset? No? There should be a thing called snapshot. Well, I have no idea why I can't find my snapshot on my OP-1. I thought, well, I guess I can't say a million nice things about it since that eludes me. I definitely saved a whole bunch of snapshots and I found them earlier, and I have since turned it off and turned it back on and my snapshots are gone, so not sure what to say about that. Is this live looping? Taking questions? Yeah, I am taking questions. Yes, this is happening live, and you are you're free to ask questions. Yeah, this is not pre-recorded whatsoever. This is the thing I like to do every Sunday when I can. I haven't done the last 2 Sundays. One because I was super busy one weekend. I had to go and do some photography stuff. What's up, Constantine? And then another weekend. I don't know. It's just there's something happening, preparing for the show or something. I can't remember. But I'm trying to do this every Sunday about around 7 o'clock, maybe earlier in the afternoon if I can get around to it, but at the very latest at 7. And kind of just talk about all the stuff, talk about gear, talk about performance technique. I myself personally, as I was kind of explaining at the very beginning of the stream, all I really care about musically is getting the best sound quality live the first time, rather than multi-tracking and doing that whole thing. Although that is what you should do, and I do recommend you do that if you're trying to build tracks. But my focus is like 99% on the live performance aspect of it and 1% on recording. And that 1% is just like record it, basically. And then I do, I'll master it or have a friend master it. But for the most part, for me, my focus is how good does the gear sound? How usable is it for performance? What are the effects like? Is there tricks that you can teach yourself? Is there tricks that you can learn? And Elektron boxes are full of that. The OP-1's got lots of little tricks that you can learn if you're going to do that kind of thing. That's not really my thing for the OP-1. The OP-1 to me is like I was saying, it's a utility box, right? It can be so many things. It can be a drum machine. It could be a drum synthesizer. It can be just a regular synth. It can be something that you take around and sample stuff. Field recorder or radio. It's battery powered. It can just fill the slot. So I was messing with it and the Dirty Wave M8, and I was actually sending MIDI over USB-C to USB because I have a cable here that's USB-C to USB. So I can, or USB micro, which is what the Dirty Wave uses. And so it would send, I was trying to get it to send audio. That wasn't happening though. So maybe I just don't know how to do it yet. I didn't play with it for very long, but I played with it long enough that I was getting MIDI, and that was basically instantaneous. So that was super cool. And so I was using this as a bass synth, and what I wanted to show everybody was how it sounds as a bass synth. We're just gonna have to remake the patch real quick. So I'm just gonna go into the Dimension synth, not D-synth, Dimension. And does it have like a snapshot down at the... No, it doesn't. Okay. Well, we're just going to take Dimension, and then we'll just reset it. And it's clipping in here. Okay. So I'm going to open up close the filter all the way, actually. And I'm going to go over to this sawtooth/sub. And we're going to go make a nice little plucky kind of deal. Some good decay, kind of bring this up. Not too long. And then we're going to go into Element, use the envelope, and send that to the synthesizer's filter cutoff. Okay. Synth. Oh no, it's the envelope. There it is. Stereo cutoff. Okay. Let me turn this effect off. No stereo. Okay, so here we go. Make it nice and snappy. I think this envelope needs to be... So, okay, I just recreated the patch for the most part. What I was trying to do is see if I can get this Dimension synth to sound just like a basic synthesizer, just a regular sawtooth. And I added a little bit, I'm using a little bit of the sub oscillator so I can use it as a baseline synthesizer. So I just wanted to see, can this replace something like this? And the answer is no, to be honest. So it can do a lot, and it does sound great. And you can really get some great sounds out of it. Like maybe somebody wouldn't know the difference between that and an analog synthesizer, but the sound of the Polyvox filter and the envelope that's on here, the envelope's just a little snappier, but it's just, I guess it's a lot snappier, could be the thing. So what I think I will do is continue to use the OP-1 the way I do, which is as a utility and just always having it around as something I can use. I work in synthesizers, so like this is a work item to me, if you know what I mean. Like when I have to make a video, I need a synthesizer. I don't want to have a bunch of cables and stuff. I can grab the OP-1. I have a drum machine, I have a sampler, I have a synth, I have a polysynth, and it fills all that role for me. It's great. You know, it's a Swiss Army knife. The Octatrack, another Swiss Army knife. It's another thing I like to carry around with me to work, honestly. And but I wanted to see what it could do, and I think where it would really shine in a live rig mix, if you're gonna like MIDI out to it and use it as a synth, would be as a polysynth. And part of the reason of that is that you can run the OP-1 as a dual effects with a compressor and a EQ on it. So that makes it really cool as a polysynth. Like as just an auxiliary polysynth, you just need it, you have it. So what you do is you just kind of treat it as just a synthesizer instead of using the whole tape aspect. And then you just go into the master section and, you know, you turn on whatever effect you want there. And then you can go into your compressor and your EQ and, you know, dial in the perfect polysynth sound that you want. And you can get some pretty good stuff. So you can go to use a delay and run it into a reverb that way. So I think it's pretty useful as a polysynth for live performance. Plus the way it handles samples is really well. Okay, I'm gonna take a look at chat real quick because I see some people have showed up and they are chatting. So 256K says the OP-1 can't function as an audio host, only MIDI host. Yeah, that makes sense, but I thought it would send, well no, you can sample over USB and you can't you send your OP-1 over USB? I always thought you could. Yeah, you can with the TX6 for sure. Some Winnie Houston, thank you, love sizzle. Okay, cool. Oh, nice, got it. I know who that is. Nutshell advice for 4+ pieces of gear. It looks like you have 6 sources of sound there. So Spacey Jones, I just want to point this out. 4+ pieces of gear is a lot, in my opinion, and I don't do 4+ pieces of gear. The only reason why these are all on the table right now, this is not a part of the same setup. This is just, these are different setups. They're just sitting here under my camera. And I've upgraded over the years my camera, and I finally have gotten to a place where I bought a nice lens for my full frame camera with a nice full frame lens, and now I can fit a way bigger piece of music gear on my in front of my camera. So I have more pieces out right now because of that. Otherwise, I don't do that. So the setup is these 3, but most of the time when I'm doing, or these 4, I'm sorry, but most of the time when I'm doing these 4 right here, this is kind of like bowing out for a lot of it, and this is taking over, and then it will be mostly these 3. And the Octatrack is always being a performance mixer for me, so it's not really counting as a sound source. So, you know what I mean? So it's really less sound sources, because that's what I think the problem is too many sound sources. The Syntakt was in this workflow. It was like this, right? This was the workflow. I removed the Syntakt from the workflow because it was, honestly, it was kind of overwhelming me because I couldn't figure out where to put it. And I think I've talked about that so many times now, but yeah. So it's over here because I was doing some private lessons, which I want to talk about a little bit later as well. But I was doing a private lesson today, and the request was, let's make some trance on the Syntakt. And so I tried to make some trance from scratch, and it turned out like this. Wait, let's see if we've got it going on. Where do I have this audio going anyway? It's going in the OP-1. Got it. So this was like this trancey tune that we started making today. It sounds great. It was a lot of fun. Like, and I love the Syntakt for me being able to just be like, okay, I'm gonna make some trance tunes, and it's all there. You don't have to get any samples. It's just the engines take care of it for you. That's great. However, I still feel like this box needs no friends. Like, it's meant to just. I feel like I should just put it over on my desk with my PC and just do overbridge into Bitwig and just use it that way and write music over there, which is a little uncommon for me because I'm usually sitting over here with all my other Elektron boxes. But I'm just finding it. There's just too many sources, and my workflow. Maybe I'm calling like being an old man or something, but there's just too many sound sources, and I have this thing where I tend to use up my tracks. And I don't need 24 tracks of audio. I just don't. It's just so many sounds. Digifex, what's up? I like your videos, Digifex. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the chat here because that's what this is all about. It's all about talking with folks in the community and giving me a little bit of a social life. You have a bit of a similar setup, Derek Deep. Syntakt Rhythm Mark II. Nice. What's the keyboard to his right? That is a Prophet 5, James Turner. That is the Prophet 5. You want to see? The beauty. Look at that. Look at that sucker. It's just wonderful. As you can see, I really like the Prophet 5. It is, like, to me, it's still the best sounding synthesizer I've ever played. I just haven't played anything that sounds better. And I work at a synth shop. I played a lot of synthesizers, and that thing just wins every time. Sometimes it's not by like a long shot, but it's always still just the winner. Still can't figure out where to put the Syntakt 2. I wanted it to be my drum machine, but the synth capabilities are just too fun. Yes, that's how I feel. So they give you like 5 or 6 kick engines here and here with snare engines too. And then they give you like 5 or 6 crash or cymbal engines over here, and then they give you the dual VCO, which kind of like tells you like that's what you're supposed to do on these tracks. Kick, snare, bass, hats. And that's what I do because it naturally pushes you in that direction because there's so many options for those machines here. So you have way more sound design options because there's more machines. And they're the analog, options, which often are really great sounding and are kind of what you tend to be like, ooh, I like that. I don't know. We like analog because we're dorks. But then you have all these other digital engines which have very few drum engines. You have like 2 kicks, 2 snares, a clap, and some bongo type percussion stuff. And then the rest are these synthesizer engines and a MIDI track. And I just end up wanting to use all of them as synth engines and doing the drums on the Digitakt because I still like my kicks the way that I don't know. I like the assortment of kicks that I've already found for my music. And, I'm not saying anything negative about it at all because I love the Syntakt. I really do. I'm just finding that different groupings of gear work better for certain things. And I think the Syntakt's one of them that does fine on its own. I don't see it as a utility, I guess. Whereas I see the Digitakt as more utilitarian, Octatrack very utility, OP-1 very utility, the M8 being its own thing, which is actually really fun to do things completely on the M8. So we're talking about the M8, let me just mention something. I'm playing another show this month, again at the Icebox Arcade, again with Jeremy Blake, and this time also with Mikey303, who's a fantastic songwriter and electronic musician, and he is a wizard on trackers in general. So he's going to be playing the show using a Dirty Wave M8 and maybe a Game Boy. And that's super cool, and I've seen him do it before. He does a great job. It's just like stellar. He's far better than I am at the tracker setup. And I want to do it too, to be honest. Like, I have an M8. I had 2 of them. I just recently sold one of them. And I want to use my M8 more. I'm fascinated by it and I love it. And it does everything that these boxes do, except for more for the most part. And it sounds good. And this is kind of where I'm like trying to write some like darker techno-y stuff because I enjoyed playing it so much at the show. And yeah, so I'm vibing on it pretty good, but I don't know what sounds better. Does it sound better by itself? Does it need accompaniment? Does it sound as good as this? You know? Or I don't know. So I asked my partner what she thought. I played this group of gear, and then I played that, and I said, which one do you think sounds better? And she said this, but it might have been the style of music. So I don't know. I don't have a definitive answer yet on what sounds better, but I know that because this has all these built-in synthesizers, I tend to write different music because I have access to so many different voices, and in some aspect, decent polyphonic voices. Although I think to actually compete against how good of sound quality I can get here, of course I'd use my Octatrack with this too, by the way. I wouldn't just use this by itself. I have to use my OT. Always. Like, why wouldn't I? I have all these effects I would use. But so I would clock this via the Octatrack. But does it sound as good as this stuff? But I think if I sample some great sounding synthesizers like the Prophet 5 into the M8, then I can actually kind of compete here, because I think the synth engines, albeit really awesome and sound really good, they're not going to cut it compared to a lot of my other external synths or the Digitone's synth engines, because I don't know, 48K, I don't know, 4816 might be it. I'm not sure. Could be just the digital audio converters, but it's really awesome, and I want to at least play one song at the show using the M8 if I can, if not the entire show. And I'm thinking about bringing the OP-1 as a polysynth to play with the M8, but I also feel like it needs a good monosynth. So I'm on this journey right now trying to figure out what is the best sounding, or what is the best monosynth for live performance. And so far, it's been the Erica Synths bassline. But, I don't know yet. I don't know if that's the winner. I would like to find it, though. I would like to find the one and work with it. All right, I'm going to check out the chat here. I may have landed on trying to sample the Syntakt drum sounds into the Digitakt, then use it as a Digitone tri-roll. Okay, yeah, that's an interesting idea. 4 stereo tracks, all you really need. Yeah, that's true. You could definitely do it. You could do it with just 1 stereo track. That's actually something I want to talk about. Does the Octa kind of act as a send and return function for other stuff too, so you don't have to mess around with external effects? It's kind of acting as, yes. It is acting as external effects for me. That's what I am doing. But you can also use send and return on the Octatrack with actual external effects, and it's very simple to set up. We like analog because we're men. Okay. Chet, hello friends, what's up? A new track from scratch, start with 4 on the floor. We might do that. We'll see. I'm gravitating more towards sampling and sample manipulation now. I'm not really interested in sound design anymore. Just feel like most sounds have already been designed. Why reinvent the wheel? That's definitely a take on it. not all sounds have been designed right. Well, it's also like it's the journey of creating those sounds that kind of inspire you to make music. But I guess that's a similar journey as just picking out your sounds. I don't know. I don't have an argument for that. Hi, EZBOT, love your videos. Do you like the sound of the Korg Minilog? Yeah, it sounds great. Analog monosynth, they're cool, for sure. All right, you can take the single cycle waveform samples and use them like analog oscillators. Yes, you can. Does Prophet 5 have bass sounds you could sequence with the Digitakt? Yes, it does. It does. It does really good bass sounds. Robert says, do you use the sequencer on the DB01 or just as a monosynth? I use it just as a monosynth. The sequencer is really great, and they did add a function on the bass line where you can actually use your MIDI tracks on any, on any device, and it will change the patterns at the right time on the bass line. So then you can program the slides, which it does really well. Its pitch envelopes, which it does really well. And you can do like these really cool gritty bass lines, which I should play more with, to be honest, and maybe I will with the M8. I actually found that these two are really good friends, the DB01 and the M8. You just run the output of here, the DB01 right into the M8, and then you have access to the reverb, delay, and chorus here in the M8, which you can program into your music, right? You can do that in the effects chain or on a table or whatever, still in the effects chain, and or in the mixer settings. I'm also thinking about maybe picking up a Yale-Tex custom MIDI controller to control my live performances. Maybe building one custom or just picking out one that has the right things. Yale-Tex makes these beautiful MIDI controllers. They're not super cheap, but they're really nice, and I think they're worth the investment. And maybe building one that has at least 8 faders. They could have more. That could be pretty useful, but 8 faders. Maybe a square like that size. A bunch of buttons that can be toggled so that when I push them, they stay on hold and then stay off. Maybe 2 sets of those, so I could have one that's mute and one that's solo, so I can play with those. Gotta have lights on it too. And you literally can design all this right on their website, so it's like, this isn't a stretch at all. And then, some encoders with light rings around it so I can see what value it's at. That would be really cool. I think that would work really good with the M8. I could just have a custom control that toggles the high-pass, low-pass filter on here, because I do like how its high-pass, low-pass filter sounds on the master. But yeah. That's kind of where I'm at right now. That's the headspace that I'm playing in, is searching for a good mono synth and tinkering with the OP-1 field. And I'm actually going to be returning this for this one. And getting another one because this encoder is a little weird, a little malformed, and there's some sticky buttons and a couple double stuff. Anyway, it's their first run, so I kind of thought that this might happen, so I'm not like, it's not like, ugh, I'm so bummed. But I am bummed, but I'm not so bummed. But I'm not stoked about it, of course. I even considered the Roland TB03 Boutique. And if you listen to the demos, it sounds awesome. And it has built-in distortion post-filter, and it has built-in delay, and actually a reverb, too. And I'm like, why don't I just get that? They're cheap. They're digital. They'll never go out of tune. Sounds really good. And I would never use that 303 sequencer for my stuff, but I could program those slides really easy on the M8, and I think it would be a really good pairing with the M8. So that's kind of what I'm thinking I might do. I'm just going to go play with it. We have one on display at work, so I'm going to go play with it for a minute and see if I can make myself fall in love with it or not, because they're just, they're cheaper than anything else I can find, and pretty reliable. Map the M8 screen to the Chaos pad style controller for the high pass, low pass filter on the master. Do people really like that using the touch for high pass, low pass filter? Like, does that make sense in your mind? Because when I just want to turn one knob left or turn it right and have that do my high pass, low pass, that whole like finger thing is like, I don't really know what I'm doing. I just feel like I'm just playing with the screen. So I don't know. That's how I feel about that, to be honest. Do you work from a template or are machines doing various duties as the song demands? I kind of think I know what you're saying, but I also don't know exactly what you mean by that. I work from a template on the Octatrack. It's always on a template. Nothing else is ever on a template. I just start from scratch. Usually I start with a sample from a piece of gear in my studio. I often sing, play guitar, sample a synthesizer. Yeah, so it's one of those things happens, and I sample it into my Digitakt, and that's typically how the song starts. And it goes from there, usually. Because I'll be playing on the, Prophet 5 or playing on Modular, and I'll be like, ooh, this sounds really good. It would sound really good if I had some drums behind it. Sample it, boom, game starts right there. Then I start adding a bunch more sounds to it. That's my typical workflow, but no, there's no template for anything else. I just, once you know how to use the machines, you don't really need one. They're pretty fast. How do you feel about the OP dropping the amazing AMOLED for an old school LED? Does it have dull off-axis viewing? No, man. It's actually pretty good. Its screen actually looks nicer, or maybe it's the graphics that are nicer, but it looks nicer than the original. For some reason, it looks a little smaller, but I don't know. It looks great. It's on full brightness, which I know makes the battery last a little less longer, but it has that crazy battery. But no, I think it's fine. I do think the other OP-1 screen was. I have a harder time capturing images of the OP-1 screen on camera that aren't the sampler engine. This shows up on camera really well. Everything else is kind of like that black background. That's kind of all it sees is black, or it reflects off the shiny light. I think maybe if we gave it some... We've almost got some sort of 303 sound. I'm still getting to know it, to be honest, because I'm using it in different ways now that it sounds better. All of the synthesizers sound stereo. It's pretty cool. Yeah, it is a little more difficult. I'm gonna be honest. I'm where I'm sitting right now. It's hard for me to read. A little bit. It's a little dull on the top part of the screen to me from this angle, but it's really not a deal breaker by any means. You really enjoy when I sample my voice. Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, we did. Let's do a voice sample. Can I just say this is an incredible live video quality and setup. Oh, thank you very much. Throw a distortion on and nobody will be the wiser. See, that's what I'm thinking. I think that you throw a distortion on it and nobody will be the wiser. Kind of. I mean, will they? I don't know. You can really hear the difference between the DB01, which is not hooked up right now. It's got a cable hooked up, but it's not actually running. Yeah. I don't know. I'm going to check out that 303, though. I'm going to check it out. I was looking at the Hydronium. I was looking at the all the REs, the Cyclones. Of course, you can't get an Avalon. That's impossible, and I'm not paying those prices for an Avalon. But I would if it was the actual price, even a couple $100 over, but not what people are charging. And then, of course, a real 303, which I don't want, is just a plastic box that's being sold for like $4,000. But yeah, I don't know. The DB01 just sounds so good. I think I'm just a big fan of that Polyvox filter. I don't know. What do you folks think about the sound quality of this? To this. Does one, I mean, they're different kinds of music, but does one sound more polished than the other? Kick is better on A. Synths are crispier on B. Yeah, all the synths on this one are being sidechained. So I suppose if we listen to this pattern. They both sound really good going into the Octatrack and using Octatrack effects. I don't know. It's so easy to write this style of music on the M8 versus over here. It just is. Because you have access to really basic waveforms and lots of them. And it just lends itself to writing that. Like that took 2 seconds to write that kind of music. So I don't know. That's a really good combo. I do think that I would replace maybe this synth sound. Oh wait, no, not that. I would maybe replace that synth with a analog desktop synthesizer. And it's so easy to do. You just write it on the M8, and then you replace that instrument on the M8 with the MIDI instrument, which I have saved as the DB01. So I literally look up Erica Synth's DB01 in my M8, and it's got all the CC controls for everything available on the DB01 pre-programmed. So super dope, and makes it so easy for me to write something and be like, okay, time to upgrade the instrument. Boom, DB01. Plus it has this cool... the quantization features that they have on the M8 are so awesome. It quantizes like every aspect of the music if you want, and you can get out of that quantization when you want to, for like accidentals and stuff. If you want to break out of your key, which is a good thing to do. But yeah, the M8 was louder. Not sure if that translates to better, but both sound nice. All right, I want to hear this. Synths are crispier on B. M8 sounds amazing, but it's also a different sound. M8 sounds radio ready. Yeah, it cuts through more. The M8 might be louder though, so that makes a difference. I don't know. I'm looking at my levels. It's actually louder on the other ones. That's the appearance of loudness because this has got a limiter on it. So it's compressing that sound. It's winning the loudness war because this doesn't have a limiter going on. It is going into the G-bus compressor on the SSL, but that's very mild right now. So yeah, that's really interesting that people thought that was louder, even though it's actually quieter by like 1 dB. Yeah, the bass cuts through the mix on the M8. Okay, interesting. With more companies would incorporate MIDI templates like that for a common gear combos. Yeah, beefier kick. I was thinking your curated kicks were on the Digi. Honestly, I have this sample pack I've been using for a long time now, which is like it's just one shots. It's all one shots. It's all I ever care about for samples is one shots. And it is just a bunch of one-shot drum samples. I forget what it's called. Sample Star, I think it's called. Sample Star Ultimate One-Shot Collection. It's huge. Like, it's a couple gigs of one-shots. And one-shots are not big files. They're tiny. So imagine there's a ton. But there's just a million different styles of music and kicks and snares and hats and open hats and claps and all that kind of stuff. And I just have that pack and I just load it in whatever box I buy. You can't do that with OP-1. You have to build racks and instruments, which they haven't released their new software yet for it, but they are releasing a software for making kits. And when they do that, this is becoming a piano and not anything else, honestly. This is going to be a portable, beautiful, albeit no velocity, but it's going to be a multi-sampled piano because I'm going to use the drum engine and I'm going to put all these notes as different notes on the keyboard of a piano on these. Listen how good that sounds. That's 32-bit. The dynamic range on these. Couple double notes there. Sounds so good though. It's a huge upgrade. The OP-1 doesn't sound like that. It just doesn't sound that crisp. And these samples are all stereo. You heard them if you have headphones on. You can hear them all over the place. It's nuts. It's just so much better now than it was. But it was in the original still so great too. Yeah, compression limiting makes it sound louder for sure. Yeah, I think that's really what it was that the M8 just sounds louder because I'm using the limiter on that music. And it works, does its trick. It's so weird how that works, right? The science behind that. It's pretty cool though. Still waiting on my OP-1 field to come in from Perfect Circuit. Yeah, I don't think that OP-1 fields are shipping until around August to stores. So you might be waiting for another month, perhaps. I can't speak for Perfect Circuit, but I think that's the case for most shops. I think if you wanted an OP-1 now, I ordered mine from Teenage Engineering, and that was kind of on the day it was released, and it took me a long time to get it from them. Okay. Do I want to do some music production right now or just chat? I'm trying to figure out what I want to... I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do in general with my tunes right now for this next. I love having a show to look forward to because it pushes me into this headspace where I'm like, what do I do? And then I write way more music. But I really liked the music that I wrote for the show. Let me see how easy it would be to get this DBO1 doing its thing. Oh, I could use this, and we could run it. We could take the Syntakt out of the OP-1 and do it that way. Okay, that's what we'll do. Give me 1 second here. We'll go like this. I have these great little Elektron cables. That's a little tiny box that I've just plugged into, if you're able to see it. That little tiny box is an attenuator, which makes it so... Oh, it has to be a stereo cable? Is that for real? Wow. I did not know that. I didn't think it would that it would use panning. Okay, I don't want to use that. There's not a mono setting for the input? Give me a break. If I go into the mixer, what can I do here? No, turn that off. Am I able to? No, I can't pan it. All of that's being fed into here. Can this do? No, this can't do it either. Oh my gosh. Gosh golly. So what does that mean? That means that I need to... I don't have a cable that can do that. Damn it. Okay. Well, I don't have it in front of me, and I don't want to waste people's time looking for cables. You know how it is. I mean, I literally own a cable company, so it's like the amount of cables that are in this apartment that I live in is absurd. I have just piles and boxes of endless cables. That is the ad that you see at the beginning of my streams is an ad for my company. Anyway, the monosynth has to be stereo. Isn't that hilarious? Yeah. Oh man, always one more. Yeah, it really is. Just always one more cable. Oh man. New song, Empty Out the Soul. Start with a blank stare like I do. Okay. Oh man. That cracked me up. What am I gonna do? I really wanted to show off, to show this song to people and get some opinions. But I can't. No, I can. I can. Just do this. We'll just take this out for a second. Because the Digitone can do what the others can't. It can sum to mono. Good lord. Okay. Let's do the thing. There we go. Now go to mono. Dual. Input left. We did it. Okay. Okay. Oh yeah, it would help to send it some MIDI, right? That's usually helpful. Hold on a second. Why is this hearing anything when this is going directly into the Digitone? That is super weird and confusing. Oh, is this mic on? Get out of here. That's why. Okay. Yeah, here we go. All right, I can do this now. This is how I want the song to start. Let's start from scratch, right? Let's try and actually do this. Let's try and do this thing. No chorus. Get out of here. No effects. One of your garbage effects. Okay. I think that's pretty much that whole song. So here's, okay, this is really why my brain's fried. Is I can do that, and I feel very comfortable doing that. I was like, I'm not stressing playing that way and doing those things. I'm just vibing and feeling it, and it's really simple to me. That song particularly is an easy song to perform and have it sound good because of techno, I guess. But I can't do that, what I just did, as well on the M8. So, because I'm not as good on the M8. That's partly why, but also because the controls on here and here, they're always there. Like I can do this and this at the same time. I can open the filter cutoff and take a kick out at the same time. I can take a kick out, open the filter cutoff, record a loop, and bring a snare roll in all at the same time. That's 4 different actions that I can do at the same time and do it comfortably. I can't do that here. So what you can do here is pre-program all that stuff and then perform it out. You follow? Like, so I can write in those things. I can't do a drum fill on here. I could manually tap one in if I had a pad. I could go, you know, depending on how good. But I'm gonna screw it up. You know, I'm gonna screw it up because I'm gonna screw up. No, just because it's hard to do live. Doug, what's up? How are you? I'm good. Don't ask me how, but I believe in you, Easy. Thanks. I hooked up my Analog Heat Mark II to the output of my Phantom 6, and the Magnetic Master preset was a miraculous improvement. Oh, that's good to hear. Gosh golly gee, that sounds sexy when it's going. All right. Interesting to see what you use M8, and been keen to try a similar setup. You miss your M8? Did you get rid of your M8? Dang, that bass is so dirty. Yeah, listen to that. Alright, let's go down. This with the detune at 12 o'clock is perfect for this song. I love that. That tune feels good. I do need to work on some stuff. I don't actually like those tones I have. I don't think I like, yeah. I don't think I like those tracks. I want to replace them. Actually, what I need is something like, you know, it's not hooked up now because I unhooked it. What I need is something like this, a polysynth. You know what? I keep kicking myself partly. Like I love the Prophet 5, the big guy with the keyboard and all that, and I love it. But I almost wish I had gotten a Prophet 10 desktop module because they're multi-tambrol. So I could use one of them. And I can't remember if it has individual outputs, but I could use one of the outputs if it had them and run them through effects pedals. But I could use one of the splits, the keyboard splits, to play bass, and the other split to be the most beautiful sounding polysynth you've ever heard, and do that live in a box that big. And that seems like that's really what I should do, because I don't want to... I always wanted, like, I want to have the best sounding stuff that I possibly can and still feel like I'm able to play, because I think the performance sounds even better than the gear. Like, you could have, like, gear that doesn't sound so great, but you're able to make it, you know, write a good song with that gear and perform it well, and it's still, like, better than just good sounding gear. I feel you, mate. You just raged my Palm Springs sunset. Cool. I pre-ordered LVX from Maris. Are you gonna get it? I don't know. I don't know LVX. I don't know what you're talking about. You say you're using let's say you're using the Phantom and MC707 and each has 2 stereo outputs. Would you get an AVE Analog 4 Mark II units on an SL6 and the Analog Heat Mark II units on the stereo bus mixes? I don't think so. I don't know. That's a really that's a question that you don't know until you've tried it a couple of times. But I think those are all nice pieces of gear that sound great. Wouldn't you want separate outs for each sound to mix most effectively? Yes, I would want separate sounds. If it's possible, I want it. I do want it if it's available. If it's not available, it's not a deal breaker. We can figure it out. But if it's available, I'll take advantage of it. It all depends. I don't like having a ton of stuff. Like we were pointing out, this is more space now on the table than I'm actually going to use for a show. Like the music you just heard was these 3 boxes, and this fits right here, and imagine that stuff's all gone. It's not that much. It's really not that much to set up. It's pretty simple. You know, it's a bunch of spaghetti on the table, but what are you going to do? You can't do anything about that. And it will sound great and be very performable. I don't know. I'm still on the fence about switching to a different bass synthesizer, but this covers so much ground because it's got the detune, it's got the sub oscillator. Let's turn the detune off, bring it up an octave. It's got drive. It's got a really nice, you know, it just does bass so well. I mean, it sounds nuts. There's something about the DB01 though, and what I do like about the 303 style bass, or like I was thinking about getting a Mavis, a Moog Mavis, and putting that in a 60 HP palette case, 62 HP palette case, and putting in a 2 HP, I don't know what the 2 HP will be, it doesn't even matter, maybe a blank, but putting in Desmodus Versio and another 10 HP like delay, and having a Moog Mavis, because they sound awesome. The only thing is you can't do anything with resonance on that thing. It just sucks the volume right out of it. But doing something like that and having some Eurorack effects for it, which sound awesome, and maybe having like noise tools up at the top. I don't really know what I'd have at the top. It wouldn't have any modulation except for the LFO that's in it. But if I use the mults from the Mavis into the mults on the palette case, I will have a bunch more LFOs. So then it needs an attenuator. So maybe a Quadrat could go up top. And then some sort of another mult maybe. Could be more mults. Buffered mult maybe? I don't know. I'm thinking about it. I could build my own perfect, you know, synthesizer for the job. But it's always like, it's just always a pain in the butt once you start introducing the modular into the rig, it starts like twisting a different side of my brain, and I start focusing on the modular stuff more than I do on just getting music done. Like I'll be like more like, oh, what kind of patch can I do with my synth, which is awesome, but I really need to write music, which is awesome, which is more awesome to me, is like actually getting songs done. And this makes it simple. I'm like, oh, there's the sound I like. I'm going to use it. The only thing about this is kind of what I was talking about the 303 and why I still like it is because this has this. I don't know if you can hear it. There's some distortion. There's no distortion turned on. Sub oscillator's off entirely. Noise is off, no FM. There's nothing going on here. It's just a sawtooth. The filter, which has a really nice sound to it, has a little bit of a slight tinge of distortion, so it's not super clean. Synthesizers like the Moog Mavis or Mother 32 or any other Moog synthesizer have, and Roland digital synths, and their old, analog synths, have a super clean envelope. As soon as the envelope is finished, like the envelope captures on the VCA doesn't bleed any audio through those envelopes. It is silence at the end of the envelope. It's just silence. It cuts right through the mix, and those bass synths sound so good to me, and I love that, and I don't get that with the DB01. Like, it sounds good, it sounds really fat, and that's perfect, you know, for most parts. But I don't know what it is. There's a little distortion. Yeah. So part of me wants to try a different synth with a distortion pedal in post. Probably the analog drive, because you can dial things in on it so well. Can you believe they were selling analog drives for $99? Elektron was. Those things were $350. They sold them all for $99 like 2 years ago. All of them. To anyone. It was incredible. I should have bought like 5. They're so good. All right. I love my endorphins and further generator. Yeah. You ever try Virus for multi-tambrol? I have. I've tried one. I haven't used one as my setup, but I have tried one, and it's dope. Yeah, it's dope. I don't want to navigate the Virus. It is not a fun synthesizer. Good sounding synthesizer, yes. Fun? No. I wouldn't put it as a fun synth. Okay, so Eros Byax says Syntakt doesn't hit bass hard enough, and so this is a really good point that he's making. Syntakt does hit bass hard enough. You're right. And I know that you're insinuating that that perhaps you know it does, because it does. The thing about it is that this box has so much to offer that I don't have enough self-control. I don't have enough self-control to not start bringing other sounds into my mix, and I just shouldn't do that. I just shouldn't put more sounds in. So part of me is like, okay, we'll just, practice self-control and use it just for a few things that you need it to do. Which is probably what I should do. I mean, I just don't know. See, that's the question. Syntakt, once again, melting my brain with what to do with it. Playground of Sound. I got the DT and DN, but I'm not pulling the trigger on the new one. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I do recommend it. I mean, I love it. I try to use Ilgate's rule from back in the day. Don't get stuck on a sound longer than 5 minutes. That's a great rule. Ilgates. I was chatting with him on Reddit a few months back. He messaged me on Reddit. He was in Seattle. Didn't get a chance to meet up with him, though. Really nice guy. I come back later on the mixing and mastering stage and do eyesight editing. Yeah, that's a good idea. Anyways, happy 4th of July, everyone. All right, happy 4th of July to you. Release this track. Thanks, Toby. I appreciate it. Lack of self-control is why I can't get into Eurorack. That's a great reason not to get into Eurorack for some folks. Yeah. Doug, I have an Analog 4 Mark II currently interfaced via Overbridge that I'm currently not using. Would be an Analog 4. Have enough beef to add some analog to the mix along with my Phantom or Peak, or would I need the DB01? No, your Analog 4 is going to do the trick. You just got to, tinker with it. Analog 4 by default has kind of a thin sound. It's almost like it's on a pulse wave or something. It's not though, but it sounds to me like it's on a pulse wave, or that one of the other oscillators is like canceling the other one. I don't know what it is. There's something thinner about the Analog 4's sound until you start to play with it, and you drive it a little bit, and it just opens right up. It's a beautiful synthesizer. Yeah, it does. It kicks out some serious bass. I do want to release the track, Toby, and I will. I need to turn it into like a video of some sort. Make a little performance video. So something I wanted to talk about really quick, just while there's some folks here, and just like see what people think about this, is I've teamed up with this group called Zip, and that's the name of their company, and it stands for Expert Tips. And they reached out to me because they know that I like to do educating here on YouTube, but also at Patchworks and on Patchworks' YouTube. And they created this thing. It's kind of like how Patreon works, but you can get in touch with me and ask me some hardware-related questions if you have some questions, and use me as a resource. You're able to ask me about different pieces of gear or how to set things up if you're struggling. over video calls. And I just want to show you what this site looks like, and I just want to show it to some people because I think it's cool. Really quick, so just allow me to do that for 1 second. Should be right here. So that's me. That's me on Expert Tips, and you can watch a little video from me, and you can see this like subscription platform. You have to read all about it. I'm not going to go over that right now because I'd rather people just visit it and take a look themselves because I don't want to talk about money on stream. Whoops. But I do want to point out that it's available and it's really cool and you should check it out. And there's a link in the description if you want to check it out. There I am on their website right here. But yeah, so this is kind of what it looks like. You do a request, you upload a file, a video file, you send it to me with some dialogue. I get the video file, I read your dialogue, I watch your video. I make a video response to your video and also write some dialogue and respond to you, and we, go back and forth that way. For like some, very specific questions if you want to ask me them, and I will answer them in depth. Anyhow, that's it. That's all I wanted to show you. I think it's cool, and I hope some folks check it out. All right, I think I'm gonna switch back off the DB01 and go back to the M8 and the OP-1, which means we go back to dual mode off, unplug this, which is so bizarre that I can't plug a mono cable in to the OP-1. That's just, come on now. Okay. So I feel like I could get some pretty decent sounds with just these two, and it's a lot, right? So we have an 8-voice poly, which would take up 1 track, because I would use this to sequence. And then we would have 7 tracks, which can have tons of samples on it. Not tons of like polyphonic samples. If this had polyphonic sample playback, good lord, maybe that will become a thing. I don't know, but the OP-1 has polyphonic sample playback, and one of the things that makes this new OP-1, look how pretty it is, it's gorgeous, makes it so dope, is that the sample engine has been just improved so much, and it sounds so good. Like, check out these sounds from the sample engine. That's awesome. That's a stock sound. Let's check out the upright piano. Doesn't really sound like a piano much anymore once you go down that many octaves. But in the higher range it does. But that's why I'm going to use multi-samples on the drum engine. And each one of these notes will be a sampled version of that note. And then when I go down in an octave, it'll just be taking that one note down an octave rather than a single note that's being warped for all these different notes. So it'll be dope. And I'm going to do it. I am going to do it. I'm going to do it with Prophet 5. I'm going to do it with Grand Piano. I'm going to do it with a whole bunch of polysynths, and I'm going to make polysynth packs for the OP-1 that are multi-samples. And it's going to be sick, and it's going to make this thing really awesome, because I can take my favorite patches from the Prophet 5 and multi-sample them onto the OP-1 and have a 24-hour battery life with 32-bit audio in my backpack when I want to play a show. Now that's dope. That's dope. So that's why this thing is a win. And you can do that with the original OP-1 as well, which would still sound really good, but even better here, because then we also have the nice reverb that they added. I don't know. Some pretty cool stuff, I think. How does the M8 compare to the Polyan tracker? They're both dope. Zip, so cool that you're on the homepage. Thanks. What do you think of integrated compressor on the DT? I think it's great. I think it's great. I use it on every track. I compress because this is usually just doing drums, and I use it as a drum bus compressor. And it's awesome. Just subtle. Either a limiter on the whole mix. I do like to do that often, or just a subtle compressor. And it does work really well. Would it be sweet if they could add true instrument multi-sampling to the OP-1F like the Deluge does? Yeah, that would be sweet. You love the template. Oh yeah, let's talk about the template for a second. That's what I'm using. So what I did is I saved my template and I saved it as new, which you in beta 5 no longer has a problem. There was a sample in my other beta versions of the performance template release that was like on sample slot 13, and I didn't see it. You had to page down to see it, and it was just there, and it was an empty sample because I had erased all the samples there, so it was just a file looking for a sample that didn't exist. It was causing an error when you saved it as new. An error that wouldn't actually do anything. It just said there was an error, but it didn't actually do anything. But that doesn't happen anymore. So I save it as new, and then I copy pattern 1 across all the patterns, and I set the tempo to whatever tempo I want my songs to be. And I clock my other tracks. And then if I go into bank 2, which I will be getting to very soon, I'm almost to bank 2 already with my new set. I go to bank 2 and start over again, and I copy the tempo to all the patterns. But then I also have to go in and copy and paste part 1 from bank A to part 1 to bank B. You have to do that for all 4 parts. So you have to keep going back and forth and copy, because you can't copy all 4 parts at the same time. But it's worth it. It takes a second to do. I am thinking that when the 1.0 release comes out, I will maybe, this would be just a silly amount of work for me to sit and do, a boring thing to do, but maybe copy and paste all 4 parts across all 16 banks, and then you can just copy and paste your patterns yourself, and that would make it so that this was just really ready to go. I've changed some of the effects a little bit, so now there is this effect here. So there's a 32, the timing is 32 in this, but it's like 16th notes. And now I have a smaller timing that I think is really good for this style of music. So all those sounds are available in my template. The newest version, either beta 6 or 1.0, I'm not sure what it will be. Could even be another beta after that one, is going to have this effect. So it's going to be 3 different timings of looping that happens via the freeze delay. So we're going to have the first one, which I just accidentally cleared, I guess. Undo clear. I need to stop doing that. So the first one will be a small version. Second one, a little longer, and then half notes. So there's tons of effects in my performance template. Right now, you're able to get my performance template for the Octatrack on Ko-fi. I've been calling it Ko-fi because that's, for whatever reason, I'm stupid and that's what I thought it was. But it's Ko-fi, spelled with a K-O-F-I. And you can buy the template there. It's a one-time purchase. It's $8 right now. And you can buy it in its current state and play with it and have fun. And a lot of people have been doing that. And I'm super stoked about it, and thank you everyone for the support and all the kind words you've said about it. But you can also sign up for my Patreon to get the performance template, and it's cheaper. Not that it costs very much in the first place. I'm sure I'm underselling myself, as that's what everybody tells me at least, but I don't know. But on the Patreon, you can get it for cheaper, and you'll get all the updates, along with all the other perks of being a part of the Patreon, which is just tons of content and thoughts and ideas. I've been kind of doing this thing, so every Friday too on the Patreon that's kind of cool to talk about is I do these demos at Patchworks every Friday at 3 o'clock. You can find them on Twitch and Facebook on the Patchworks, Twitch and Facebook, that is. And I do a different demo every Friday, and I do it live. Sometimes it's my first time using gear. Sometimes I qualify myself as an expert on it, or if it's like an Octatrack or something like that. But a lot of times it's just my first time playing with something that we just got in the shop. But I give my thoughts on my experience with that synthesizer on my Patreon, and I'm using new gear all the time, right? So every Friday it's a new piece of gear. So maybe my thoughts have some value just based on that alone, just from having so many different new pieces of gear coming through my hands at a time. But not because I'm an expert pro music master god or anything, but strictly just from somebody being able to try it, and get to actually have a conversation with that person, albeit on the internet, but actually get to have a conversation with them about that new piece of gear or existing gear. So that's one of the perks of the Patreon, plus the performance template. So something that happened recently, there was this DJ that reached out to me, and he emailed me, and his name is Jonathan Peters, and DJ Jonathan Peters, and I looked him up because I get emails sometimes from folks just asking questions about the Octatrack and stuff. And I looked him up to see if I wanted to do this because he wanted to do a video call. And sure enough, he was the real deal. He was been working as a professional DJ for a while in New York City, and definitely had gotten some attention. And he had some talent. I saw his videos. He's using 2 Octatracks, so I was like, oh, sick. Okay. So we actually eventually had a video call, and we had that call on when? On Saturday? Was it yesterday? Yeah, I guess it was yesterday. So we had the call yesterday morning, and we talked about his Octatrack, my template, and his workflow. And he kind of reworked my template a little bit for his personal workflow because he DJs. And what we came to this conclusion of how you could use the performance template and just DJ other people's music, or your own tracks, your own finished, polished tracks, and DJ them on the Octatrack using the template. And it's totally a feasible thing, and actually pretty viable. So I'm actually going to be making a whole nother version of the template where I'll take a lot of ideas from the current one and rework it for DJs specifically. So what will happen is you'll have track 1 will be your through track, but really it's going to be a flex track. So track 1's going to be your track with all of your songs on it, and you'll just load all your songs into your slots, and you'll leave the Octatrack on slots mode. So you can just trigger your songs just like that. You go, song 1, boom, let it play, do your thing. Song 2, boom, let it play, do your thing. And then on this side of things, it'll be live resampling, so you can live remix everything, kind of like you can do on the second version of my template that comes in the zip file. If you've opened that up, there's a remix version with these flex tracks as always available to do remixing on. And then you'll have 3 neighbors after your flex track. So there'll be even more effects than there are, or a more variety of effects will be available. Even though there's already 64 available here, but you're still limited to how many effects I can put in these machines. I'll be able to put a delay into a reverb into a chorus. That's not something I could do yet. So with 3 neighbors, I can do stuff like that. I can do a filter into a filter into a filter. Make some really weird sounds. So that's going to be the idea. I know that some folks are going to be stoked about that because, DJing is a huge part of this industry, and a lot of people just want to get their music played, and that's a great way to get your music played is by DJing it or by getting it to a DJ. So yeah, I'm gonna work on that. That's gonna be a little bit later because it's gonna be a lot of work. So maybe by the end of this month, maybe the end of July, I'll have that done and get that out to folks so that they can start using their Octatracks as their DJ mixer. And you'll be able to crossfade between 2 different songs and the whole 9, the whole deal. It'll be sick. It won't you won't be missing anything. But besides that, on template news, I'm stoked that everyone's been playing with it and enjoying it. Boosting Patreon level to show support for new mixer template. Okay, thanks. Oh, Travarsi, what's going on? Good to see you. I just joined Travarsi's Patreon. Travarsi and Alex from WMD started a Patreon together. Or Alex joined Travarsi's Patreon, I'm not sure. But yeah, there's a Patreon you can join. You can join theirs. They have some cool stuff on it. I support that big time. I put a lot of my income from Patreon goes out to other folks' Patreons. I love Patreon. I love supporting other folks on it. I think it's super fun. It's ironic how I fell in love with Elektron gear with Overbridge, and when the Roland Phantom 6 dropped, pre-ordered it at launch, I started having more musical ideas more quickly. That's interesting. I personally wouldn't vibe on a Phantom 6. That is not my style of music making. I really enjoy sequencing on these boxes, but the Phantom 6 is a beautiful instrument and sounds really great, as many folks know. I like getting notifications of people who I start to support. Yeah, me too. I get stoked. I read all that. I always go and check out people's notifications. Travarsi, thanks for that. Yes, have a lot of cool things coming up. Yeah, I'm stoked to see that. Sorry I didn't make it to the thing this morning. Honestly, I totally spaced that out. Been doing a lot of housework, and helping out my mom, who's injured and continues to just like lift heavy stuff anyway. Like, come on. Yeah, I'm gonna end up taking care of you. Arrows, thanks for the $5 tip. I appreciate that. Yeah. Okay, so I don't know. Does anybody have any questions about the new OP-1 field that I can answer while I have it in front of me here? Let's go into this tombola. Tombola is pretty cool. That's a fun little sequencer. No worries, we recorded it, so it'll be available in the next few weeks. All right, sick. Glad. I will definitely watch that. What do I like least? Oh, about the OP-1 field? What do I like least about it? Well, now I've discovered I don't like that it, mono inputs don't work. So that's up there with one of my least favorite things. I would say my least favorite thing about the OP-1 field is the drum envelope in the drum sampler. This thing. This piece of garbage right here. This is the most useful envelope. Useless, I'm sorry. Useful. It is not useful. It's the opposite of useful. It's never been helpful to me. The only thing that this would be helpful with is if you sampled like some noise, like some literal junk, and you wanted to make drums out of it, this envelope would help you. It could turn things into drums. However, taking existing drums, I don't want to do that. What I want to do is I want to sample stuff. I want this to be a regular ADSR like I have on the Digitakt, so that I can, give things a nice soft decay or put some release on something, on a chord sample or something. Not this like this. I mean, it sounds great anyway, but like the drum envelope itself doesn't sound good. But besides that ridiculous drum envelope, I'd say that you can't undo. Since you can't undo or redo, I would really like that. It forces you to do this weird workflow where you have to copy, you have to delete stuff, and then so it goes in the RAM, and then you have to put it back down afterwards, and then you have the ability to, you know, not comp, but just redo your music, and that's the workflow on the OP-1. It's an interesting workflow, and you get used to it, but it's like undo, redo would be a lot more useful, and I'm sure it's just a command that they've chosen not to implement. Oh, you're super excited for the new template, Traversy? Have you been playing with it? I'm trying to get Jeremy to play with it. He told me he might give it a shot. I want him to. I think he'll enjoy using the Octatrack as a performance mixer. Can it be controlled by external gear? The OP-1? Yeah, it can. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. It's kind of nuts that so few devices have undo, redo. Yeah, it is. It must be a hard thing to implement. Because like the M8 doesn't have undo, redo, and it just recently got snapshots. So now you can take a snapshot and you could completely screw with it and then reload that snapshot. So that's cool. Yeah. I don't know. You're always trying to sell me on the Phantom, Doug. I'm not gonna get a Phantom in a million years. I don't think. But it's cool. It's cool. But it's definitely not my thing. Yeah, so you know what? I'm gonna play a little bit of music. Just because there's folks here, and this is a music channel, and we like to talk about music and do some music, and we're getting close to the 2-hour mark, so I figure I'll do a little bit of music. So maybe I'll try playing this one from scratch and see how well I can do. Okay. So we'll either that one. Just using this track as a way to cleanse your palate. So we're really gonna do this one. Function no. Function no. Ba-da-dum-bum. There was a jam. I kind of feel like jamming another song. I'd like to do that one, but let me play this one. Oh, we gotta be on the right track. I forgot about this effect. Sick. Cool. I got some playing in. That's always good. What is generating the choir sound? That is the OP-1. Triple tact. My dream for you is a mic vocoder rising out of your DT. Maybe that's not a thing, but a girl can dream. I have something like that. So I have a gooseneck microphone that I plug into my TC Helicom Perform VE, and I use that as my vocoder. It's not a good vocoder. It is a good vocal processor, but it's not a good vocoder. I need a good vocoder. I have the Roland VT4. Nobody makes good vocal stuff, hardware vocal stuff. It just doesn't exist or something. I don't know. Maybe I'll check out Boss. I know subsidiary of Roland, but they have a lot of more premium vocal stuff on their 500 series. We'll see. Prefuse 73 vibes. Acid Cat. I don't know. Can I translate to English? I sure can. Wow, what a fucking morning IDM. Oh, thank you, Acid Cat. I appreciate that. Okay, so what we talked about today, to sum it up, was monosynths. Which one do we get if we have to pick one? That's just a monosynth for bass lines. And Tubacorn, what up? Drew? Drusif, my buddy. Good to see you, dude. Which one, if I was to replace the bass line with, what would it be? What would you pick? I don't know. Looking at 303 stuff right now. And there's a super expensive badass one vocoder. Yes, it's Moog, and it's $10,000. And yeah, it's $10,000 for an analog vocoder. It's too much. I want a good vocoder though. The best one is Vocal Synth, but it's a VST. I have tried the Typhon. The Typhon is a nice sounding synthesizer. The Typhon isn't up my alley, to be honest, Robert. It's a really good sounding synth, and I do advocate that people get it and play with it and have a really great time. But it's not my sound. I don't even know how to put it. There's something about it that I didn't vibe with it. It's super strong. I did like that it had all those effects and it sounds really good. Pro 3, that's a really good point. That is too big. That's too big. I have a Take 5. And I tried to, okay, that's something worth talking about. So I took the Take 5. It has it for $5K. Oh man, that's actually, I shouldn't spend $5,000 on a vocoder. So I took the Take 5 and replaced the DB01. I did this just 2 days ago just to try it out and see how it sounded, but it does not work. It does not have the envelopes for mono stuff. It doesn't. It's for leads and chords. It's not a bass synth. It just doesn't have it doesn't do it. So yeah, maybe the Mavis Hunter from Moog. I would use that. I'd put that in a modular skiff and build a custom mono synth, add a distortion, reverb, and delay, and some more modulation. Sources, maybe. It's got to be simple though. It's got to be very playable live and something I can use over and over again. So that's like brings me back to maybe I just use the Syntakt and just get over myself and just use it because I have one and it sounds good, and use it for bass lines. So I do like the way it sounds. Is it not hooked? Oh, it's not hooked up. Right. Because we don't have enough stuff. Do I need the TX6? Everybody was so hyped about it having recording. I didn't get so hyped about the recording. I think it's really cool. I like that it has that utility. I don't think I'd ever use the recording. Maybe I would. Actually, I would have at the show. Dang. Maybe I do like TX6. That would have been really helpful. The DB01 is probably going to be my next hardware synth. I've been wanting it forever. Big recommend from me. Really good synthesizer. Excellent sound. Like I said, the envelopes aren't snap to the zero volume. I don't even know how to explain it any other way. The way that a Roland synth does, or the way that a 303 style synth, or the Mavis or a Moog style synth. Those, like, there's no like harmonic content escaping the filter envelope or escaping the VCA envelope ever. It's just so clean, and I really like that. Steam Deck. So Hunter, that's what I'm talking about. I have a Steam Deck. So I haven't put a Bitwig on it yet, but I'm going to. And I was thinking I could imagine M8 plus Steam Deck for a live performance rig and a MIDI controller. That's whack. That's so goofy, but it would sound so good. It would sound so good. I would have every sound imaginable, an infinite multi-tambrol synthesizer, to the CPU limit. But the Steam Deck's pretty good, so I am gonna put Bitwig on the Steam Deck and see what happens. Yours comes in October, nice. Yeah, I ordered it like within the first 2 seconds. I learned a couple years ago that when I get hyped about something, to just do it and then return it if I don't want it. So I just buy stuff just right away, right when it's getting released. I'm like, okay, just do it. If you don't want it, sell it, And you always get your money back. If you lose $100, it's like you got to have it first and play with it. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, maybe it is. I don't know. We all have different viewpoints on money. But yeah. So I'm having a great time with this setup. I still think that the most ideal setup is these 4 for my style of music. I'm having fun with the OP-1. I was doing some lead stuff while we were playing. The reverb is so good. They really nailed it. I honestly think it's better reverb than you have on the M8. I feel like the M8's reverb is good. It's really big. It's huge. It's a huge reverb, but there's something about it. There's like this sizzle that's in it. So you hear that? Hear that reverb trail? Does it just need more filtering? Maybe I just need more low-pass filter. Maybe that was better. Oh, it's so much cleaner now? It was the reverb. Okay. I literally forget what key I'm playing in the middle of playing. Classic, right? The things you'll do for a live stream. It's pretty dope. It's pretty dope sounding synth. Yeah, okay. That's goofy. All right. Thank you everyone for hanging out. Again, if you want to get private lessons from me, there's a couple ways you can do that. You can visit my Patreon and join under the lessons tier. You can visit my website, ezbot.live, and get lessons from me there. Or you can visit my zip profile, which I showed in the middle of this stream. Feel free to check that out. Links for all these things in the description of this stream. If you need some help with your gear and thoughts and you want to talk to somebody who's hyper passionate about this stuff, I'm here. So if you're interested in that opportunity, check it out. I love hanging out and talking about this stuff. It's my favorite thing to do, and I've loved every second of doing it. For everyone else who's been playing with the Octatrack template, thank you so much. I would love to get more thoughts from people. Most people are just like, it's dope, I love it, but I'm not hearing very many critiques. I would love some critique. I'm okay with critique. It's not going to break my heart if somebody says, this effect sucks. So please tell me when the effects suck so that I can make them better. I would love that. So please do that on my Patreon or on Ko-fi, or via email, which is ezbot84@gmail.com, which obviously alludes to my age, right? Anyhow, everybody's great. Buy my cables, modbang.com. They're great. I just redesigned a whole bunch of them, which isn't currently in the shop, but they will be coming soon, so look out for that. Join the newsletter. And I'll see you next Sunday at 7 o'clock. Y'all are lovely. Take care.